Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday training. I'm getting just a smidgen behind myself here, getting everybody in the room today. Okay, here we go. We're live. Welcome to Tuesday training. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today, as usual, on our Tuesday. Let's see if I can do this without the recording playing over me. Yes, I did it. Success. Fantastic. I feel like some days I'm good at being the director, and other days I need a minute to catch up with myself. So thank you for keeping up with me. Welcome. Hey, Lori, nice to see you.
Hi.
Hi, happy Tuesday training day. Happy Tuesday. I'm happy to see you guys today. I'm happy to be here. Here comes Rhonda. All right, so some of us are on camera, some of us aren't. That's totally okay. If you're in a place where you can come on camera and you want to play, great. If you are only listening in for today, that's also okay. Feel free to come off mute and share in the conversation, ask some questions if you have them. You absolutely can't do that and you need to be here live. I totally get the commitment. And so then go ahead and use the chat. Easier for me if I hear your voice than to read the chat, only because of, well, you just saw me with my screen iteration of how well to do the directorship of this cruise ship, if you will. Hey, Rhonda, welcome. So for those of you who are here for a repeat visit, I'm so glad to see you. I love familiar faces in the house. Also love your commitment to being here and your, like making it mandate in your schedule to sort of like make the time in your schedule weekly. I dig that. I feel like it's a fixture in your schedule. Hey, Anna, welcome. And if you're just joining us for the first time, I'm glad that you're here too. Welcome. If you're watching on the replay also, I haven't said hello to the replay folks the last few weeks, I noticed. So welcome to everyone who's here. I'm your host. If I haven't met you yet, I'm Gina Schatz. I'm both a manual and movement practitioner in my 31st year of working. Crazy. And I really like to brag about that because for those of you who have also been here for the long haul, you know that, it's not that common in our industry. Movement and manual practitioners typically don't work full time and they don't do it for very long when they do. So I love that y'all are here. I happen to know those of you who I can see on the screen, and I know you've been at it full time for longer than the average. So I celebrate you. I acknowledge you. Hat tip to you. My intention for us each Tuesday is to pour into you so that we can keep doing this for the longevity of our desire, right? So that our knowledge and our skill set meet the needs of the folks that we serve. So that is my intention for you today and always every Tuesday. Today's Tuesday training. Today's Tuesday training is sponsored by the Schatz Method Academy that is hosting its annual springtime masterclass, right? We do this every spring. We have this lovely masterclass. So tomorrow's masterclass is on the lever system. If you're just hearing about it for the first time, please join us if it lights you up. It's designed for both movement and manual practitioners. I gear all my training in that middle place where, oh, thanks, Lori, for putting that in the chat for us. I guide all of our training towards that middle line where both manual and movement practitioners can really glean a lot of information from the same material. I know that there was, hey, Cheryl, welcome. I know that I don't know if you've heard this, but there have been times along my career path where it was sort of like movement is over here and manual is over here, and, hat tip to you from across the bow kind of thing. And what I know from the method that I developed working clinically is that the missing piece for me was across the bow. And so when I'm training other practitioners in the method, guess what? Same thing. The missing piece for them was on the other side. So there is actually this amazing place where manual and movement practitioners can have the same information and do a whole lot with it. So that's true for all of my training, including the masterclass that we're hosting live tomorrow. So from movement practitioners, if you teach movement and you're interested in teaching pain-free movement, and or you're like a trainer, personal trainer, for example, and you're interested in gains and how do I support my clients in gains pain-free and also get them to do gains because they've been working out a lot and nothing's moving the needle, then this lever system masterclass is for you for sure. And if you're a manual practitioner and your clients come to you, they're active, they take care of their bodies, they work out not with you but somewhere else, and they come uncomfortable or in pain or taking a break from the workout that they're doing, then you need to know this too, because this is what's happening for them that you could then intervene for them so that you're not just treating the symptoms of what their chief complaint is, but you're actually resolving it for them. And then everybody gets back to working out and taking care of their body and everybody's happy. So the Lever System Masterclass is designed for both manual and movement practitioners. So happy to have this window of time, spring as it were. I mean, it's technically only the end of February, but I don't know where you live. It's 60 degrees and sunny where I live, and it's not supposed to be. I'm supposed to be buried under 60 inches of snow right now. So it definitely feels like spring is early, so it's a perfect time for our master class. Speaking of, who here in Tuesday training, who here is coming to the master class tomorrow? Who's already committed to coming? Oh, yay! Lori, Rhonda, Cheryl, awesome. Okay, so good. Wait a second. I feel like there's other people here I didn't say hello to yet. Sydney, hey, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Feel free to come on camera and play with us if you like. So for those of you who are coming to the masterclass tomorrow, so glad. I'm excited to have you. And question for you, what are you hoping for? What drew you to the masterclass? I don't want you to necessarily, recite what you think the curriculum is going to be, but because I'll save that for you all tomorrow. But I'm interested, because the three of you who raised your hand are here every week. So I love that. And so what's drawing you to the masterclass? Love to hear from you. If you have it.
I just want to learn more from you. Anything I can learn. So
good.
I just feel like want to absorb whatever I can.
So. Love it. I love that hunger. Okay, awesome, Cheryl. Perfect. Great. Anybody else? Something drawing you to the training? Anything in particular? Go ahead. Rhonda, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm similar with Cheryl. I like to get as much as I can. I find the information helpful and interesting. And as you may know, I signed up for, oh gosh, I can't think of what it is now. Oh, functional anatomy quite some time ago, but I haven't had the time to invest in that long a class. So this will be sort of getting started on that class.
So more like a bite-size approach, 90 minutes instead of 18 hours. That's cool. That's a value. That's huge value of a masterclass over a course. Yeah, I love that. Lori, what about you?
Yes to everything that everybody says. I gobble it all up. And I realize that, like, even though I've heard the lever system, we've gone over the lever system, I feel like I know the lever system. Every time you present it, there's something different that I'm like, oh, that's a little nugget. Like, I just hear it differently. It might be a different day that it lands differently. So that's what I look forward to in material that I've heard before, is that there's always something that I'm like, I know I heard that, but today it landed differently. So that's what I'm excited about.
Oh, I love that. That is so true, right? Isn't that just the path of learning? You absolutely heard it. You were paying attention. Your notes are brilliant. And sometimes you just need it again. Sometimes you just need it again. Sure. So yeah, we're all
and again and again.
Yeah. And I'm finding that after just even these Tuesday sessions, that I'm left with more questions. Like, I feel like I've got wait, well, what about, there's more questions. So I kind of feel like I need to find the answers.
I love that. I love that being in the question is where the answers are, Cheryl. It's when we start getting either burned out or, whatever else happens where we feel like we know it, like we got it, that makes me nervous. And it's interesting, right? Because I teach practitioners all day. I love connecting with you all and pouring into you in this way. So I hear from a lot of practitioners frequently, and it's more prevalent. We've talked about this here too, I think. It's more prevalent that practitioners get a little weirded out when they don't know the answer. And my term weirded out. It's like, I'm too nervous. I don't want to make a fool of myself. I don't want to say the wrong thing. And honestly, that's the safety zone. The safety zone is not being sure that you know and being willing to ask. It's actually a danger zone, my opinion. It's the danger zone when we start thinking we know it all and we stop asking questions because our ego won't let us, or we get arrogant about what we know, or burned out and don't want to be enlightened anymore. That's really where it's dangerous. So I'm happy that you brought that up because I really want you guys to feel confident to ask questions, you know?
Well, you help us, at least for me, you make me comfortable in asking questions. Like
Oh,
not everyone I've learned from has made me feel that way, you know, so just feeling comfortable in that zone of being able to ask questions is I'm thankful for that. Thank you.
oh, Cheryl, I'm gonna
Yeah.
cry. You
Yeah.
just made me soft and mushy. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I
That
already am
matters.
crying.
That matters to me because that means that then there's value for you and that you'll do something with the information, and that means that everybody wins. So thank
Yeah.
you for the feedback. That I
Mhm.
didn't realize I needed to hear that, but thank you. I'm glad that you feel comfortable
Thank
here.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. And you're setting a great example for everybody else, Cheryl, because you do openly ask questions. Like you're willing to just put it out there and just see what we do with the info. And we all learn from that. You know, we all learn from being courageous and also from the answers. And just even honestly too, just having the questions. Sometimes we don't even know what questions to ask. Right. And that's also a place where we get in our own way because we're not even clear what the question is. So how can we get clarity? So
Yeah.
forming questions is also part of the skill set. And thank you for bringing that. I love that for all of us here. Okay, so we're going to have a really fun masterclass tomorrow, and we're having a really fun Tuesday training today, which is great. One of the things I said last week that I get to create clarity around is that in Tuesday training, which is where we're at right now, this is like it's not that fancy of a name. It's Tuesday training at noon Eastern on Tuesdays. In Tuesday training, I am teaching you similar, if not the same content as what's available in the Schatz Method Academy. Those are the evergreen courses that are available on demand. You have lifetime access for them. You review them, you take quizzes, you get CE certificates. That's the content that I bring to Tuesday trainings. I may have said last week mistakenly or not been clear that I'm teaching you the Schatz method when we're here on Tuesdays, and I'm not doing that. The Schatz method is only offered in the Mastery program, which is a year-long program. And the reason I don't share it on Tuesdays is because it's proprietary. And we all have, those of us who are Schatz method practitioners share a license to utilize that method. So we need to really keep it safe and secure, which means we have to know what we're doing with it and keep our eyes on each other and our elbows locked to support each other. And so that material, how I specifically work the Schatz method, is not something I'll share on Tuesdays, but it is offered in our master level program. So everything else though that I share with you on Tuesdays is anatomy, and it's available in coursework too. We take we pluck a leaf off of the flower and we sort of digest it together on Tuesdays. And I really like some of the adjectives you guys used last week to describe your experience here on Tuesdays, that it's casual and it's a little more leisurely, you know, especially those of you who are in mastery, which is a very intense year-long path of drink from a fire hose kind of material. And we also get a chance to review here, which we've already stated is valuable no matter where you are in your anatomy journey or your career path. You get to review for a lot of reasons. I'll just state them again in case we missed the obvious. First of all, you're only going to hear 20% of what's shared in any given exchange if you're paying attention fully. 20%, which means by the time, 2 hours goes by in a 10-hour course, you're done. That's it. Your cup is full to the brim. No more information is coming in. Now, it doesn't happen in the first 2 hours of a 10-hour course. I'm just using the math as an example, which leaves on the table 8 hours of content that you probably were paying attention to and couldn't absorb. Your brain's not wired that way. Same thing with our clients. If we work with them for an hour, they're not hearing everything you say for the hour, even though they're there making eye contact and nodding. They're hearing you, but it's not going in. So we get to be patient. We get to review. We get to state the same things several different ways. As you mentioned, Lori, sometimes just hearing it for the 5th time is the time that it clicks, right? You didn't say 5th, but hearing it again is when it clicks. Same is true for us. Same is true for our clients. So if you are working on high level client work, you do get to review your information well after your credentials. If you went to massage therapy school or yoga teacher training or through the mastery program, you get to review. Because even though you were present at every class hour and took very good notes, you didn't retain it all. It's not physically possible. So you get to review. So that's one of the things that I really like in our environment here on Tuesdays. It's also important to review so that you have an opportunity to go implement what you know. The 20% that you did here, crystal clear, took amazing notes on, answered all of your questions, courageously asked them, got the answers. You still don't know that material. I beg of you to consider. You only know it when you've implemented it. Right? You only know it when you've implemented it, because what your notebook says and what the body has to say about what you just did, wildly different, wildly different. So one of the concepts that we really drill down in mastery is that when you're working with a client, there's 3 of you in the room. You, your client, and their body. The body has a whole other viewpoint on what's going on. The body is not necessarily going to respond the way your notes told you it would, right? For a lot of reasons. How, the body's constitution, how it responds to the treatment, the history of the injury that you're navigating, all the patterns. Puppy, we love puppies. Yay. So there's lots of reasons why implementing is really 50% of the equation. Even though you all are here, and I already expressed my love and affection for you being here committed. You could be here committed every week, and you're still not going to be an expert at what you learned here unless you're out there doing something with it. And that is, again, okay, well, now I went out and did it. I thought X was going to happen. Y happened. What the heck? Somebody help me. Did that ever happen to you? What do you think that meant? What did I miss? What did the body say? And we're only taking in 20% of the information. So when we're in the room with the body, we're also only paying attention to 20%. Oh, hey, it's a third person in the room that wasn't there when we were training, that wasn't there in our notebook, and we only heard 20% of what the body said. And we're expecting to create massive results first time through. The worst part for me is when practitioners say, oh, well, that method doesn't work. Oh, that workshop was a waste. Oh, that teacher training wasn't thorough enough. It's absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true. I just did the math. I just showed us how that's not true, right? Like, you got to be out there trying. And the courage that we learn here to ask questions and maybe not have the answer is the same courage you take into your treatment setting. Have the courage to try and the courage to listen when the body is like, I didn't like that at all, right? It's happened a few times for me too. Like, of course, I'm not a magician. I mean, I like to think I am, like I can create magic, but I'm a mere mortal like the rest of us. And there have been times in my clinical setting where I was headed down XYZ and the body decided to show me a detour. And I was like, oh shit. Like, the last thing I want to do is have anyone be more uncomfortable in my presence. I'm literally on the planet to do the opposite. That is unnerving. That is unnerving. You got to stay grounded. You got to be clear. You got to have the ability to manage your mind and get yourself back on track with what you know, and be willing to listen to the body without your ego getting in the way, because it's only communicating. It's just information. And that is a phrase that I invite you all to adopt. When that happens, when you expect Y and Z to happen, but that's not, the body's back at the beginning of the alphabet, somewhere in D, E, and F, and you're in the oh shit land of it all. Instead of being in oh no, I recommend you adopt this phrase. It's just information. It's just information. And if you can calm yourself enough and be in service instead of in your own sensation of freak out, don't be selfish about it when that happens. Stay focused on what you're there for. You're there to listen to the body. You're the translator, right? The person came in fully ready and armed with lots of chief complaints, and they're relying on you to translate for the body. So stay grounded, keep your wits about you, and go with what you know. Okay, what do I know? And what is the implication of that? What do I know? And what does that mean? What do I know? And what was I trying to do? And if I tried to do that and the body said something else, what does that mean? Stay in the questions, because that's where the answers are. The answers are not in your freak out. The answers are in the questions. So again, just taking us back to the beginning, I'm really proud of you guys that you're willing to ask questions and not have the answer, because that's the same clarity and courage you need when you're facing a client, when it doesn't go the way your notes told you it was going to go. There's no matrix. There's no checkbox. It's not going to happen. Not when you're dealing with complex issues. It's not going to happen like that. You'll get more versed at it for sure, but there is no check, check, check. You're done. Next. It's not like that. It's not like that. So allow yourself the freedom to be there when it starts to look like a stew instead of direct lines, right? It might just look like chili. Like, oh shit, what just happened here? Okay, let me iron all this out. Let me see if I can identify all the parts. Yep, there's carrots in there, there's lentils. Okay, got it. Yep. Back to my parts. What do the parts do? And that is what that part right there, what does this part do, is what we're here for on Tuesdays. What are the parts? What's the anatomy? How do they work? What do I know about that? That is the information that I share with you on Tuesdays. That is what the Academy is filled with. Courses on that. What are the parts? How do they work? What are the parts? How do they work? Over and over and over again. If you know how they work, you can get yourself out of a pickle. I know you guys have heard me say that 100 times. I want to keep repeating it until you're like, okay, I know the parts. So now I can get myself out of this pickle, because the body just took me on a detour that I wasn't planning for. And I'm cool. I got my wits about me. What do I know? This is what I know. Yep. So it's mind management, if you will, steeped with knowledge. You got to come in armed and ready. You got to have a lot of ample anatomy and physiology to back you up. Keep your wits about you and proceed. That's what I recommend, which is part of what I wanted to share with you guys today. And I'll come back to that in a second. I would love to take a breath, because I see you guys all taking that in, and I could go on. I could go on. I'm going to just give you a breather here, because you're only going to take in 20% of what I say, and I know that. Let's just go to last week for a minute. Did you all recognize that I was on the hot seat for almost an hour last week? Did you like that? Was it a nice turn of Anna's like, I loved every second.
Loved it. It never feels, you make it look so easy, which is what I think we all aspire to when our clients present like that, is to just be like, oh, and I suspect what's going through your head is like, what do I know? And what is the body telling me? Right?
Perfect segue. Exactly.
I know. Yeah.
Exactly. What do I know? And what is the body telling me? Thank you for letting me know it looks easy. The reason it looks easy is because I've practiced. Remember I shared that with you guys? You got to go out there and be willing. You got to try. You got to try and be willing to not have all the answers for your clients every time, especially as you amp up. I would love to take a vote on this. I might take a vote on this. As you amp up your knowledge and your skill and your understanding of how the parts work, isn't it true? I know it's the leading question, and I sound like I'm in a jury, like I'm an attorney, a trial attorney. Isn't it true that your clients that come to you come with more complex issues? Isn't that true? Don't you work on more complex clients right now than you did a year ago or 5 years ago?
Absolutely.
100%.
100%.
Yeah. Which means they're coming to you because, again, their subconscious is bringing them in and you're prepared. So as you amp up your knowledge, so does the complexity of what you're working on. Now, if you don't take a moment to pause and reflect on that, you might think, oh my God, I never know anything. Not true. It's not true. You're solving more complex issues. You got to think. You got to be in the game. Okay. So go ahead, Anna. Almost. There it is. That's all right.
Dog in the way. Yeah, I think what the knowledge is doing for me, Gina, is, I have a plan every time I know the client is going to come back in based on what we did the week before.
Mhm.
Every time.
Mhm.
And every time they come back, and it's like, well, there goes that plan out the window. Like every time. I don't even know how it happens. And I even share that with them. Here we go. and it's like a phenomenal thing because they come in with, you know, something different, or I notice something different. But the thing that the training is, and the knowledge is really helping me, and I notice it week by week, is I'm not freaking out. I'm okay being in the not knowing and being willing to explore. And that the knowledge is giving me, I don't know that I want to say confidence. Maybe that's the word for it, but it is allowing me, like the courses and the coursework and the material, you know, I get to practice it when they're there, and I'm just not freaking out. I'm being okay with not knowing the answer.
Anna, I celebrate you for so many reasons on that share. Thank you for sharing. Like, holy moly. I remember in October, so not that long ago, I remember taking an SOS call from you while I was traveling in a hotel room. So look at how quickly you turned that around. That's incredible. That's incredible. I'm so celebrating you. I'm so celebrating you, and you get to tell the world. So I'm so glad that you just brought that up.
Yeah, I think it's just the knowledge, you know, it's what you were saying. Like if you've got the knowledge, there's you just get to be okay with not knowing. I think you say it all the time, you know, there's just the more you know you don't know kind of thing. And there's just so much more to learn. And, you know, it's okay not to know it all. And it's okay to, yeah, it's okay to throw the plan out that you meant to be doing once you're responding to to the body that's in front of you.
Exactly.
And not have the answers.
Yep, exactly. To the body that's in front of you, not the one that you have on your notes. Yep. I mean, it's good to a point. You too, Lori?
Yeah, I was just to Anna's point, like now I don't freak out. Like I think Anna and I were in freak out mode a little bit at the same time. And now I have to catch myself that if I'm working with somebody and it presents differently, that I'm not like, oh, what's going on? That's super interesting. Like I get to keep that to myself, right? Because I'm like, oh, it's doing that. And I'm like, oh, inside voice, because I get to be calm, even though I'm like super curious why it did that. But they don't want me to like lean in with that, like, oh, super neat. Why is your body doing that? You know, that kind of thing. So I had to calm exterior. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cheryl.
So where are you in the mastery program? Have you finished the mastery program, Laurie, Anna?
No, we graduate in, when do we graduate? July?
June? End of June.
Okay,
End
so
of
you
June.
started last July and you're in it now.
Yeah,
okay.
We're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And we drink, so Cheryl, we drink from the fire hose every week. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much more water, Lori, I don't know if you find the same thing, but it's amazing how much more water can go in as we move along the program. So I know Gina says 20%, you know, I like to think I get at least 90%. But what's interesting is
at least
I'm able to, like,
a minimum.
I don't drown as much as I was drowning. And I don't know why, but
you don't know why?
Well, I don't know why I'm not drowning as much.
Oh, I know why. I'll share that. Cheryl, did you have a follow-up though?
Well, I guess my other question was, once you finish the program and pass the course, then you get a license to practice?
Yep.
Okay. But you're already practicing.
They're practicing what they know. They're not licensed to practice the whole method yet, but they can practice. They should be practicing. They better be practicing what they already know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You practice what you have. And then at the end, it all sort of comes together.
But you weren't doing that at all beforehand. I mean, you weren't.
Cheryl,
clients,
you know, I've got like 500 hours of training, and I swear 10 of those were anatomy. You know, for yoga, right? I'm probably exaggerating, but I knew that was a huge gap for me, like a huge gap. So that part has just become gold, because I didn't, you know, I knew how to teach the asanas. I had no freaking idea why Like I was cueing like that, right? So
Mhm.
now I'm just able to cue, and I do it one-on-one. I don't teach group anymore. And it's amazing the people that are coming to me who, anyway, regardless. But now I cue for safety. You see, because I would go to a yoga class and I could see, even if I was participating, Gina's term, my eyes would bleed when I would see what some of the people are doing. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like they're going to have injuries. And so, yeah, I'm still like a yoga teacher, but in a private practice, I use yoga modality, but I introduce so much of the stuff we learned from the Schatz method, how to walk, the 12 steps of walking, like who knew? So, yeah, there's just a lot of gold in the material, yeah.
Cool.
Awesome, Anna. So I want
Thank
to
you.
address, yeah, thanks for asking, Cheryl. I wanted to address what you said, Anna, like, oh, I'm drinking from the fire hose each week, but I feel like I have more capacity to swallow more water, but I don't know why. I know why. 3 really important.
I
Oh,
know.
go ahead.
Because I'm implementing more.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah, that wasn't even on my top 3, but it's absolutely up there for sure. Yeah, you got to implement, otherwise you don't have any skill. You're just smarty pants. So the more you implement, the more skill you have, the more savvy you are, the more success you create, for sure. But your ability, all mastery practitioners' ability to take in more capacity each week as the program moves along, because the material doesn't get any lighter. Y'all think it's going to, but it never gets lighter. Because I'm packing a whole lot in a very short period. 12 months is a very short period of time. But at the very beginning of the mastery program, what gets revealed is all the gaps in your anatomy. Because you can't go on to solve complex issues. I've said this here in Tuesday training as well. It's the same. It's like the message is the same. You can't go on to resolve complex physical musculoskeletal issues if you don't know musculoskeletal anatomy. How can you solve a problem if you don't know the parts? Doesn't work. So what happens for a lot of practitioners at the beginning is they come in and they're learning all the anatomy and they're gulping it down, and they typically like it. I mean, you guys would tell me if those courses were palatable to you at the beginning, but there's a whole lot of, oh my God, I've been teaching it wrong this whole time. Oh my God, I didn't know XYZ. Oh no. And so there's like a little bit of A&P freak out, I call it. Instead of just being curious about the information, you kind of like review your whole career. Like, oh my God, all the things I didn't know. And what if I did know? And how come I didn't know? And whose fault is it that I don't know? Right. So that takes away the capacity to take it in when you're in this sort of freak out space. That's number 1. That happens early on, like month 1, 2, sometimes it leaks into month 3. And then I batten down the hatches to make sure that stops, because it's just an interruption. It's normal. It's human. There's some space for it, but it just interrupts the process. And all of the anatomy that I teach you, every course that I have in that academy is applicable. I don't do anything superfluous. If I don't use it, I don't teach it, which doesn't mean it's not valid information. I go and like watch YouTube videos too for my own entertainment. Like sometimes it calms my brain actually to just take in someone else's anatomy training. But if I don't use it in my method, I'm not going to teach it to you. If it's not anatomy that is going to apply to the work that you do with me, then it's extra, and I'm not going to do that. So everything I give you is very streamlined. It's like, okay, this is what I use. This is what she uses. So now I know how to ask questions and I know how to implement it because this is the work. That's all the anatomy part of it. So that's the first half of the program, almost the first half of the program. You're learning a lot of new anatomy in the first half of the program. And from the very beginning, I'm teaching you strategic thinking. What you do with that information and how you process that data is the transformational part of that program that you can't get in a course. You can't get it in a weekend training. Strategic thinking is a pattern. You got to practice it and practice it and practice it. Like anything else, it takes repetition. And that starts at the beginning. So by the time you're halfway through, you're like, oh, I know how to take in this information. I know where to place it. I know how to implement it. I know what questions she's going to ask me. I know what questions I have about it, and I know where it fits. You don't have that at the beginning. Does that resonate with you, Anna? Does that feel like the reasons for your increased capacity?
Yeah, I think so. It's you know, that the course at the beginning, the muscle anatomy course is huge, absolutely huge. But as other courses come in and as we go along, there is, I'm not going to say a repeat, but it's what Lori was saying. Like, you hear the information in a different way about the same thing. And then I think at the beginning, I was very linear is what very black and white, like very linear. It's either this or it's that. Um, like the concept of, we learn what the main function of the agonist, the main muscle is. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's all it does. I didn't understand that it had buddies. Of course it has buddies. I mean, nothing works in isolation. And that's what I mean. So at the beginning, it was just learning this very linear. And now it's this more rounded understanding of how the body and the muscles work and help each other or not help each other. So as we go along, there's expansion of the same knowledge, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. For
It
sure.
does.
Lori?
Oop, you cut out. Yes, there is expansion. That's why our brains expand to kind of gather it in and see it differently and apply it differently. Yeah, without a doubt.
Love it. I love it for you. I'm happy that that's your experience, Anna. I love it. And Lori, so good.
And I also I just want to say, Cheryl, I lost a client 2 weeks ago, and I had to, I wanted her to be honest with me, and she actually thinks or thought that some of the work that we were doing was actually contributing to her knee problem. And you know what? I would have, as Gina would attest to, I would have I just would have lost it. Like I've lost a client and, blah, blah, blah. It's all my fault. And you know what, Cheryl? I actually knew that I was not contributing to her situation, that I was being so mindful to, keep her safe and doing strengthening. But I know how she carries on in her day-to-day life. And if you're not going to do the homework, and if you're actually not going to care about your own care, you there's only so much I can do when you come once a week. And I was like, I'm okay with that, because I knew, based on everything I'd learned, that I did not cause or contribute to it. So,
Yeah.
am I sad about it? I'm sad for her, but I'm not sad for me.
Good.
Anna, gigantic milestone for you. This is the first I'm hearing of this. This is incredible. Gigantic milestone. And I love that you knew the anatomy to know what you had contributed and not contributed. I love that you knew that. You're like, I know the anatomy. That's where my confidence lies. So good. So good. Okay, my darlings. Are there any other questions before I want to give you a new concept to consider today. Any questions that came to mind for you? Cheryl, you said after you usually get information, brings more questions. So are there any? I'm happy to be on the hot seat again, is I guess what I'm saying.
Well, and this may have already been answered, but I just it keeps coming back, like with the whole, the 4 tightnesses, 4 types of tightness, and when it is okay to stretch. Like in my mind, I grew up as a dancer, in the dance studio, and we just come in and cold stretch. And, I mean, that's not what I do now, but
Yeah.
I know that is we haven't been taught any differently. And even with fitness, at the end, you do the dynamic stretching in the beginning where you're just moving through, range of motion and stretch. Fine, that I understand, that's a good way to warm up the body. That's what I do.
Right.
But then after, is there any time when it is okay to stretch? You still do yoga. We still want to stretch the body. People are still thinking that it's good to stretch. But now I'm going, well, wait a minute. Is this okay to stretch? Okay, we just finished a workout. Typically, we'd go into stretching. Yes, I am cueing, activate this muscle to stretch this one. But, we would stretch our triceps. Does that mean we, activate our bicep to stretch our tricep? Like, should I be cueing all these things that, has been such a part of all practice, or a lot of practice that I've been a part of? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out in my own mind, like, when is it okay? When do I say, no, you don't need to stretch,
Right.
So,
No, it's a really thoughtful question, and I appreciate it. Just like me, I had a strong dance background. I remember being, in undergrad, and that's what we would do. We would go in and stretch, and we'd sort of like righteously stick our noses up about we were the only athletes that were actively stretching, like it was a claim to, a higher knowing or something. So I really like what you said about stretching, that, it's mostly going through range of motion at the beginning of a workout. And I would say that it's similar at the end of a workout, mostly going through range of motion. And you said something really important, that the way you cue stretching now when someone's in your care is that in order to stretch, you're cueing the agonist to contract, which is that's like 101 lever system.
right.
And we know that the way the brain is wired, that is technically a stretch, because there isn't a command in the brain to stretch. So it can only happen in response to contraction. And like Gary was bringing up the study last week that he brought up, and, we had some questions about the totality of what that study covered. My mind does this with stretching. My mind does, if you're moving thoughtfully in joint action before and after a workout, you're moving through range of motion. You're moving through joint action. Thought. And is that wildly beneficial to 99.9% of the population? Yeah, because we all sit on our ass. How many joint actions do you have in your body, and how many did you create today? Usually not as many as we have available to us. So of course, going through the range of motion at a joint would be beneficial to the body, which it is designed to move. So in my mind, what most people would consider stretching, and like what you're talking about at the beginning and end of a workout, is going through joint action. And if you do it cueing contraction first, much safer. And I have in the past even said to clients that I know are runners, well, did you stretch before and after? I'm not actually asking them, did you contract the agonist to lengthen the antagonist? Like, I'm not asking them if they engage the lever system. What I'm really qualifying is, did you do any other joint action except the one that you did during the running in high velocity, high impact? That's what I'm asking. Did you do anything else different in your body? Or was it just, let's go, pound, 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 hip flexion, hip extension, knee flexion, knee extension, and not hitting the ground evenly? Because if that's all you did, client, then I understand what your body's saying. It's needing something different. And it was during those joint actions that caused the problem, because there weren't any other joint actions. So I'm just qualifying what they did when I asked, did you stretch before and after? So, the 5-letter word has come out, or it's a 6-letter word, it's a 5-letter word, has like eked out of my mouth before. Nobody died. Like, I didn't commit, a moral sin or anything like that. But I know what I'm asking, and I know what, pre and post workout movement really is versus the actual physiology of it. So that's my idea around stretching. The other half of your question, which is, now that I know all the types of tightness, am I supposed to be even doing that? Yeah, because in the instances that we just talked about, it's going through range of motion that's available. When we started getting into the tightness types, it's when things go wrong. If someone can't stretch, or the stretching hurts, And it was mostly targeted. That conversation originally in my teaching way back was geared towards deep tissue massage therapists and Gumby yogis, yoga teachers, who were taking everything to the nth degree and holding it there and going deeper and longer. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Because even if there wasn't an injury in the muscle tissue, even if tensile stress wasn't in the client's body, hypermobility might be. And unless you're stabilizing that joint by activating the lever system, holding that joint in that long hold is not helping. And instead of giving them the whole anatomy lesson on the 4 types of tightness and the 3 different types of constitution types, it was like, stop stretching. And my way of approaching that conversation was, it doesn't even exist. How about pause? Now that I have your attention, let me pour into you. So that's how the conversation originally came, just to stop the madness. And I would say, unless it was something specific in a client that you were working on, if your clients are able to do the movements that you're talking about as stretching before and after, they're probably okay. And you're probably okay too. It's when there's injury in the tissue or an inability to move the joint in the action that's available to it without pain, that you need to start looking at the types of tightness. And if all you do is stretch and all you do is deep tissue work, start sooner. start looking sooner, and don't just keep going for the reasons I already talked about. Does that answer it for you?
It does.
Yeah.
It's when something goes wrong. That's the part I was missing.
You got it. Yep. So
Okay.
The lever system is the way the body's designed. It's designed to contract on one side and lengthen on the other.
Right.
Joints are designed to move in all the joint actions that are available to them. When tightness type shows up, something's wrong. When pain shows up, something's wrong. When the inability to move that joint the way it's designed, if you know the joint action of that joint and it can't do it, something's wrong. Exactly. And that's a great distinction. So if your client can't do, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, now for me, it's learning what are the opposing muscles or the agonist muscles to be able to cue correctly for all the stretches that I choose to do.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, we're going to highlight that again tomorrow, because it really is, as Anna was bringing up, the muscles and movement course is so pivotal in our training track. And it's not really a course that folks elect to dive into on their own. It's sort of like mandated when you're in mastery. And then after, everybody's like, oh my God, how did I know anything before I knew this? Like, I didn't even know what I didn't know. But it's a dense course. And I think that there is a gap there for all of us, because, to your point, learning all the muscles, learning what they do, knowing all the joint actions, and then being able to overlay the lever system on top of it, it takes a minute. It takes a minute. And sometimes we take ourselves out of the game because it's boring, or we're afraid we don't know, or, whatever. It's actually, I don't think muscles and movement is boring, actually. You tell me.
No, that's why I'm here.
Okay, good.
Because I find it so interesting. I want to know more.
Yeah, I think it's a game changer. It was for me. In fact, I have my first muscles book from 1991. If we want to be honest. And it doesn't even really resemble a book at this point, because it's really been through it. It's, it's appropriately duct taped on the spine, and all the things. The pages aren't flat anymore. I mean, it looks like it's been through a 31-year career, and it has. That's my point. That book was like strapped to my ass. I was constantly thumbing through that book and reminding myself of the muscle, and then looking at the body and looking at the movements and the actions that are available and the secondary actions, and then thumbing a page or two over and being like, oh, he works with him, and that is not happening. Hold on a minute. And I literally did that for probably 3 years of my career without any shame, because I didn't want to make a mistake. I wanted to create a solution. So again, as we talked earlier today, if you can let your ego get out of the way and be willing to not know the answer, but courageous enough to find it, even in the moment when you're with your client, you'll get there. You'll get there. But if you have to save face and be like, I don't know, or just sort of this drives me batty. Don't answer a question unless you're sure of the answer. Like when practitioners start to say stuff just to fill the space because they're uncomfortable with the question or their lack of knowledge, you're doing a disservice. And that really bums me out. So I'd rather you pause and just grab a book. Let's see. Natasha, do you cover all the muscles in the course? I only asked because I know it is a streamlined course. That's a great question. So, well, there's 600 muscles in the body, and I know we don't go over all 600 of them, but we do group a bunch of them together to cover that. I would say I haven't counted all the muscles in that course. What do you, Anna, and Lori, what do you think? Do you feel like all the muscles were covered, or do you feel like you got out of, isn't a yawn a stretch? It's a reflex, actually. That's a cute question. Anna and Lori, do you think that you got all the muscles you needed in that course, or do you feel like you left that course and were like, oh God, there's this other group we never got to?
No, it feels like we, it's like what you said earlier, Gina, like you give us what applies to the method that you've seen after 31 years. Are there ones that we didn't? Like, I'm realizing the feet, I get to look at that a little bit more, but like, how often does that come up? It doesn't come up a whole lot, but do hips come up a whole lot? The muscles around the sacrum that we go over exhaustively? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
so the ones, go ahead.
I was going to say that's a good point. Like we don't name all the muscles in the hands and feet, but we do talk about where they originate. They don't originate in the feet. If someone's got foot issue, tenderness in their foot, the muscle's not there. So those of you who are massage therapists who rub a dub for an hour, you're not helping anybody, right? So where is that muscle? And how do you address it? And what joint action do you use to address that muscle? We go over it in that way. Natasha, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I was going to add, Natasha, I don't know if you can see, does this come through upside down? I mean,
no,
that's right.
Oh,
great.
what is that?
Anna Banana, look at you all organized.
So, I haven't found any muscles in my practice that I needed to know or that were missing from here. And I have to tell you that this binder sits on my table in the morning when I have breakfast, and I'll turn to, a muscle and remember, like picture, the picture, and remember what it does. Like here's the sartorius. So this is how Gina lays out a muscle. So I'm fascinated by the sartorius, by the way, but that's irrelevant because that's, anyway, it's so good. So I think we've done all the important muscles. Lori, I don't know. I'm not missing any. We've done tons. I don't even know how many, but we've done tons.
That helps. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, great. Any other questions? Anything else coming up for you? Cheryl?
Just a book recommendation, anatomy book recommendation.
Oh, what kind of anatomy?
Muscles and movement.
Yeah. There's two that I like. The one that I mentioned that doesn't resemble a book anymore is my favorite. It's Sig and Adams. Sig and Adams.
Sigum? Oh, it's Sig and okay.
Sig
right.
and Adams. Yep. This is the first edition. I think they're up to edition number 5 or 6 now at this point. Again, it has been 30 years. I like it. It looks a whole lot like the image Anna just showed that I created in our workbook for that particular course. What I like about that book is they do one muscle at a time on one page. They show you exactly where it is in the body. They give you the actions. They give you the origin and insertion, and they give you nerve innervation. I don't use a whole lot of nerve innervation, but I still have referenced it in that book before. They also give you, sometimes they'll give you like an extra tidbit to know about that muscle. So it's one, but that's it. And that's why I said I'd look at that one muscle and then look for another helper B in the reciprocal inhibition family. And then I'd flip between those 2 pages and I'd figure it out. I love that book. I told you it's my book. I have had
the
Go ahead.
title of it? The title of it is?
Oh, yeah.
Because
I could have given you that. I could have given you that. Is this backwards? This is backwards, right?
Nope.
Oh,
Muscular. No, it looks right to me.
Illustrated Essentials of Musculoskeletal Anatomy. So
Okay, thank you.
that's number one. There are, so I love that book for all the reasons I already told you. Hey, Joan, it's nice to see you. And I've also heard from other practitioners where they're like, I don't know. I can't tell, like, is it deeper than that muscle? So it didn't have enough depth perception for them. And everybody learns differently. So you got to know your own learning style. Some people learn visually, some people learn, most of us as body workers would learn kinesthetically, but then you have to have a secondary. Anyway, for those purposes, the trail guide to the body, I don't have it with me. I don't reference it very often. But that one tends to have more context to it. It tells a bigger story. It's like reading a book, like reading a novel. There's lots of words. It'll draw it relative to the other muscles so that you can see it sort of like its placement in the world, if you will. What I don't like about that book, over the one that I already mentioned, is that I don't know what the freak, but this is before, this is 20 years ago. Still, the font is not that dark. It's like I find it hard to read. The font and the lightness of the font, like, I'm like, could someone please turn the lights on? And it's not about my aging eyes. It's not about that. That was like that back in school when people were, using that book. And 2010 was the first time I was introduced to that book. So it was 15 years ago. I already didn't like the text. And it tends to, I'm more succinct, the way my brain processes data. I'm like, just get to the point. If I want data, I'll ask for it, kind of thing. And so I don't enjoy all the story time in that book, but I appreciate the story time in that book. So that's another one that I recommend. Those are the two for muscles that I really recommend. And, my testimonial on the book is my own personal preference. It's not because one of them is better than another.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheryl, I'm not at home, but I've got one that I think you would really enjoy. It's called something like, it's got the word yoga in it, but it's definitely muscle and movement. And I find the trail guide just too wordy. Like I get buried in it. And the one next week I will show you the title, but it's like the one that Gina was referencing, it's origin and insertion, the agonist, what's the antagonist. So it uses language from the muscle and movement course, and the synergists, like what are its buddies, and it's and when you're doing this movement, these are the muscles that should be engaged. It's really cool. So that's the one that
Is it Anatomy of Movement? Is that the one?
Maybe that's it.
I think
Anatomy
I have
of
that
yoga
one.
movement.
Yeah, something like that. They do
something.
different ones though. Like,
yeah,
it's Anatomy of
something.
Is it like
Yeah.
a horizontal? It's
Yeah,
more horizontal.
it's a
Yeah, that's the one.
horizontal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
check that out, Cheryl. I have it here too. It's I think it's called Anatomy of Movement or Anatomy of Yoga.
Movement,
The
whatever.
Movement yoga.
The pictures are 3D, Anna. It's a glossy,
Yeah,
it's a glossy 3-ring binder kind of book. Yeah,
mine
that's a
isn't
good,
3-ring, but yeah, it's glossy and
not 3-ring, but like the spiral. It's a spiral bound book. It doesn't have a spine to it.
I don't
No,
remember.
mine
Nope.
isn't spiral bound. The trail
Hold on.
guide is spiral bound. But anyway, I can show you next.
Hold up. Yeah. Or
I'll
we'll
hold
throw
it up
in.
next
We can
week.
throw it in the student lounge too.
Yeah.
I'll take a picture of what
Okay.
I have and throw it in there. I have
Yeah.
trail guide also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
anyway, yeah. Cheryl, thanks for going back about the muscle tightness, because even though we heard that for a month, I've heard it for years. And today it clicked. I'm like, oh, right. That's the reminder when things go wrong. Yeah, it's when it goes
Right,
wrong.
because I'm
I was
trying to
like,
apply it now, and it's
I
like,
was
wait,
too, and I know this. And I was like, oh, thank God. I'm like, Cheryl, thank God. Thank you for asking the question.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's always helpful when other people ask questions, because oftentimes it's something I'm already questioning anyway. Like,
Agreed.
oh, good, I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah. I was saying that 20 minutes ago. I was like, oh, Cheryl, thanks for asking that. I didn't know that I needed a refresher, but I did. So thank you.
Anytime.
Just backtracking on the books for just a second. Anna, is the author of those books Ray Long? Okay, the Ray Long books, also great. I only found one mistake, or one, it wasn't a mistake. It was a, I see it differently. So that's pretty good, right? In all the books. And his books tend to be super expensive, which is another reason why it's not my top one to recommend. Although, I don't know, Sig and Adams is getting up there too at this point. So, but his books are great. I like them. And I'm sort of stunned right now that I don't have, I'm like, did I lose those books in the fire and I don't remember? Because they're expensive. And I had them all and they were great. So anyway, I might not own them anymore. That would be heartbreaking. So I couldn't pull them out and show you, but I know I own them at one point. Those are also good. And they have the visuals of those books, of Ray Long's books, I would say are the claim to fame on those books, because they are illustrated bar none to anyone else, for sure. The information about the muscles is not as thorough in those books, but the visual of them is. All right, my darlings, we are past the top of the hour, which is exciting because it went by so fast. I always have more to share with you, which I will gladly do next week. Was there value here for you today?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, good. I'm so glad.
I think that, Gina, I think the value is the community, right? Again, I mean, not only the information, but, you know, those of us who show up every day here, there's strength in community.
For sure. Yep. I'm super proud of our community, actually. I don't know of another place who's gathering practitioners who has a community that is not only exclusive to those who want to be on a particular path, but also inclusive, and that everybody gets to meet together. I don't know of another group that does that. So I'm over the moon that we've created that here, and we just continue to grow. And thank you, each of you, for being part of that, because the community isn't me, it's all of you. So thank you for showing up and being here in that way. And if there's anybody else that you know of, any other colleague or peer that you know gets to be part of a community that's winning, that's super supportive, where they can learn and have all their questions answered, please feel free to share the training with them. You know, it's available all the time on YouTube. I know you all joined in on Zoom today, but just share the link with them so that they can watch it and see that there might be something here for them. I would really appreciate that. And with that, I bid you adieu, my lovelies. Continue to do great work this week, and I will see you all next Tuesday. Bye for now.
Or tomorrow.
Or tomorrow in the masterclass. Exactly.
Yes.
See you then.
Okay.
Bye.